All right, PK, here we go. You get to sit in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena and watch Utah and UCLA. And we've talked many things, and obviously everybody who watches this game is going to be trying to figure out Utah's run game and how much are they going to run the quarterback. Can they just turn around and give it to Wayshawn? And behind that O-line is the yards and the touchdowns are going to flow. Maybe they put a little something in there. Now, the other side of the ball, Kyle Whittingham, you've heard so many of his press conferences, whether it's Saturdays after games or Mondays at the podium. It's always about running the ball and stopping the run. UCLA last year, worst team in the Big Ten in rushing offense. Almost everybody in the league ran for 110 yards or more, but Northwestern was at 98, and UCLA was dead last at 86 yards per game. They've got a new offensive coordinator, and I don't know that you're wired into LA because you worked at the Daily Breeze there, and although people have scattered, the core of the group is still in Southern California, but you've always said they were mostly USC people. So have you heard much about Tino Sunseri? He's a new offensive coordinator there. He's only 36 years old. He's kind of the mystery man at UCLA. What's he going to do? The guy was a graduate assistant 6 years ago. It is crazy to me that he's now an offensive coordinator in the Big Ten, but hey, things have broken his way. Can he fix the running game? We just heard Kyle say they're going to have some QB run game, obviously, so that'll give it a little boost, but what do you think? What have you heard? What do you know? Or it's been a news blackout on UCLA the same way it's been with Bronco at Utah State because that's the era we're in.
Well, sure, they have been shut down. But, I mean, this is Tino's second job in the Big Ten.
Indiana, baby.
And so if you were amazed that he's an offense coordinator at 36, then you were really stunned when he was one at 35.
Co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Indiana.
Yeah,
well. But now he's got the steering wheel, the accelerator, the brake, and the clutch all to himself. So what are you going to do?
I'm sure he had an input on what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And his father was in coaching. I remember the name. So this is something that, he's one of these football lifers like we tend to see. The kids follow in because they got the door open. Why not? Take it. You're not going to make that kind of money in the regular world like the rest of us, so do it. Last year's last year. I mean, what
everything can change. Season. New OC, new quarterback who's going to run the ball, so it could all – and it's got to be better because it was atrocious last year. And they had four rushing –
that's last year.
Four rushing touchdowns.
Spend time talking about last year. I mean,
well, because some of the players are back and the head coach is back, but they can turn the page.
Well, plenty of teams have done it throughout history. I mean, you're a history dude and like to talk about that stuff. But I can read last year's stats, but I want to see what happens this year. What will we see? That's the big mystery. They're all excited. They believe that they're much better. They believe they've fortified their holes through the transfer portal. They're thinking that they are very under-respected, and why should they be? I think if you want to go for polls, then you can use last year in the recent history as a model, because that's essentially what it is, based on limited knowledge, and so the knowledge that you have available is the prior year or two and all that stuff. It's hard to go back more than 2 years for the coach. I mean, this is his second year. It's not very fair to him to be able to be judging. But then it's just preseason predictions. They're just hot air. That's all that matters there. I mean, they believe that they gained some momentum through the acquisitions, which is essentially what they are this year. And every team that goes and does their whole thing in terms of what we look at prediction-wise, right? They believe their recruiting classes were better. They have 31 transfers, I think. Obviously, the quarterback is the number one. He's an attention-getting guy, right? And they believe that their defense was pretty good last year. Should be better, right? That's what they're looking at now. They lost some guys to the NFL. It seemed like they always lose guys to the NFL, though. So it's been a big mystery. It seemed like they have big, tall, athletic dudes on the edges and that type of thing. And you wonder, man, what is exactly missing?
Toughness, physicality, the ability to dominate the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but, Deshaun Foster has been a tough guy in that respect. There's so much intrigue into this game here. Utah, I think that when you look at the Utes, their defense is not a mystery. We know what they're about. But because they bring in Beck and a quarterback and another running back from New Mexico who Kyle's been saying that is right there with Parker. It's a little bit of a surprise there. I didn't think that would be the case. But what does that mean? How is that going to play out? Every season has its surprises. You go into seasons and you have ideas, and I don't want to say speculation, but just more of what we think. Projections may be a good word. And then you get to October, and then you get to November, and there's multiple things that, wow, I didn't see that for the good. I didn't see that for the bad, depending on how the season goes. And what does that mean? That's the beauty of it. There is a form of unknown. And for Utah, which has had limited unknowns, probably as limited as any program out there, because they've been so consistent. A model of consistency that's defined Kyle Whittingham's 2-decade run at the University of Utah. They just do the same things all the time. They've got the plan. They got the structure. This is the way we do things. And it rings true. And now this year, bringing in this coordinator with this quarterback, that's never been done before, right? You couldn't do it. If the quarterback came in, he'd have to sit out a year. Well, now he doesn't. And it just adds so much intrigue, which for me, I think intrigue can be a shot in the arm in terms of interest. Right? Intrigue and interest what's the definition, the difference in the definitions between the two? It's probably a very thin line. And I think that's what we got. And I like that Deshaun Foster was able to go get the quarterback and bring him home, so to speak. He's a Long Beach kid, but still basically home. I read this story out of the Times yesterday, right, how he didn't mind sitting in traffic. And his mother has been battling some health issues. I think his breast cancer seems to have that under control. His younger brother's on the team, too. I think, he committed to Arkansas, and then he changed?
He enrolled at Arkansas. He spent a year at Arkansas.
Did he actually enroll? So it was a little bit of a Bachmeyer thing then. And so he's waiting in the wings. Because if his older brother does really well, has a great season this year, then maybe he goes to the NFL. And then his younger brother could take over. This could be a real program setter for Deshaun Foster, and he needs it. Right?
I was about to. He took the words right out of my mouth. He needs it.
Yeah,
it's L.A. and being pretty good that's great in a lot of places, but being pretty good in a place where you got a lot of transplants and you got a lot of stuff going on, it doesn't really move the needle. You got to be great. Shohei Ohtani moves the needle, but you got to be great. And we've seen that with the Lakers and the Dodgers and USC football when they were on top. You got to be great.
Because I think that if you look at programs that turn the corner, the proverbial turn the corner, there's got to be a moment. There's got to be a game. Something has to happen. And you can look back to that moment that they decide, okay, enough of this. We're going this direction. And is this a game that could do it for this program in 2, 3 years, 4 years, where we look back and say, man, that first game, they got their guys, they got their quarterback in. It was, an unusual situation, but is anything unusual now with transfers that we can say that's an unusual situation? Maybe that's just the way it is. If every situation is unusual, then there really isn't any form of things that are unusual anymore, because that becomes the norm. And with the transfer portal being what it is, maybe this is the norm. And maybe he's the guy who can catapult this program up 2 or 3 levels.
I like what you're saying here at the end. I think that the norm is a lot of change and chaos, and teams can change quickly. The key is to in the whole look at the past, look forward thing, you look at the past to define what's the problem, what has to change. But in this era, it can change super quickly. That problem doesn't have to follow you. It doesn't have to. That needs to be the basis of when they hit the transfer portal last December. They have to look and say, okay, 4 rushing touchdowns and 86 yards a game, not good enough. Fix it. And whether that's O-line, that's running back, it's offensive coordinator scheme, it's a QB run game, it's a little bit of all of the above. It's just got to be better. But they don't have to be shadowed by it because everything changes so quickly all the time. And why can't UCLA be totally different? But for that matter, why can't Utah? And both those teams are thinking that going into this game, which is why the game is intriguing.
Yeah, it's just that I don't think Utah needs sort of a program-defining game.
Nope.
That they've been there, done that. That was years ago. These guys in the opposition, they need it. And Utah needs a tone setter for 2025. And this is the great time to go get it, to say to everyone, and people will look at this, right? If they look impressive, you're not going to get much next week. But if they roll into Texas Tech 3-0 and the offenses look legit, then across the board, from A to Z in college football, everybody say, yep, that's Utah, man. They just had that injury last year, and that was it. But the Utes that we've known for a long time, the toughness, blah, 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 yep, there they are. And then that just raises everybody's anticipation, and the confidence level is boosted throughout the team. This is a very important game. I look at this game for Utah as a tone setter for the 2025 season.
But that's exactly how UCLA's looking at it because they're thinking if they beat the Utes, they're 4-0 when Penn State comes to the Rose Bowl next month.
They need a program setter, not a season setter.
But it would still be that. It would be you're right. It would probably be bigger to UCLA given the recent history of their program. Sure, I get that. But nonetheless, if the Utes win this, they're thinking 3-0 going to Texas Tech, huge game. If UCLA wins this, they're thinking 4-0 with Penn State coming in, huge game.
Yeah, but then they turn around and they can lose to UNLV next week.
That would be awesome.
I get your point, and I agree with it mostly, but Utah has already proven.
They've proven a lot of things that UCLA still has to show. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Kevin Graham joins us. What was he more intrigued by? The Cowboys trading away an elite pass rusher or Boise State getting drilled on the opening Thursday night of the college football season? And what's he looking forward to this weekend? We'll find out with KG next.